Any birth defects. I want to abort, he does not. This was a planned baby and I'm absolutely devastated. Me and my husband met in college and have been married for 6 years now. We have one son who is now 4 years old. I know some people are gonna wonder, but yes, we did discuss our moral political views before even getting engaged, and we're both pro-choice. When we were 21 and 20, we made a stupid mistake that ended in a pregnancy. We were both flat broke and not at all ready for kids. I decided to terminate and he fully agreed with and supported me. He loves our son so much and is an amazing father. He confided in me that he loved the idea of having a daughter as well. Luckily, we're in a good financial place, so I agreed and we started trying for a second baby. We conceived fairly quickly and were overjoyed. We also soon discovered that we're having a girl. My husband was so excited. As soon as he was told, he went all out and started to plan her nursery. He asked our son to help him pick which shade of pink he wanted, which crib to get, what the theme should be, etc. It was all so adorable. I don't want to reveal any personal medical history, so forgive me for being vague with the descriptions. At our last doctor's visit a few days ago, we were given the news that our daughter has severe birth defects. They think that she could possibly survive the birth, but any life that she gets to experience will be painful for her. There have been medical cases of babies with the same conditions to survive from early childhood to even the teenage years. These poor children suffer with so much pain and are uncomfortable their entire lives. They are very low functioning and need around-the-clock care as well as several uncomfortable surgeries to try and give them a better quality of life. We were both heartbroken and cried for hours together in the car. Then we drove home in silence. Neither of us said anything until my husband began to quietly mumble his thoughts. He was going on and on about how we needed to schedule another doctor's appointment so we know what medical equipment we'd need to buy for her, and we should renovate the nursery again so we could care for her more easily. He said that he'd definitely have to talk to his boss so he can take a longer paternity leave. He wants to be by her side in the NICU until we can take her home. He talked about how we'd have to ask his mom to babysit our son more often while she's a newborn. He even said that maybe we could sell one of our cars, move to a smaller house, and take our son out of private school so we'd have more money to pay for our daughter's care. I was silent until he asked me what I thought. I was blunt and said that I think we should terminate the pregnancy. Now I feel bad for saying it that way, but I was still frazzled from the news. This made him very upset. He began to cry and ask why I don't want our daughter, even with disabilities. I mentioned our previous abortion. He said it was different because it was unplanned and we had no way to take care of the child. Now we're in a pretty good place financially, so theoretically we could shoulder the cost of our daughter. I have a bit of personal history with this type of situation. My best friend in high school was at my house all the time because her parents were way too busy with her severely autistic older brother. They did love her, but she was pushed to the side her entire childhood. I told him this story. He said that we'd do better by our son and daughter. My best friend's parents were stupid for having a second kid after they already had a disabled one. He then seemed hopeful for a minute and asked if I was just afraid. He promised that he'd be by my side the whole time and we could do this together. I told him it's not about fear. Our daughter will be in pain constantly if she's born alive. It would be a short and painful life for her. I love this baby so much already, I don't want her to suffer like that. He began to yell that even if she doesn't live long, we could still pour our hearts and souls into making her life as fulfilling as possible. I didn't respond and he stormed inside. It's been a couple days now and he won't even look me in the eyes. He sits in the new nursery for hours. My doctors told my husband and me that our baby has many birth defects. I want to abort, he does not. My doctors told my husband, 30M, and I, 31F, that our baby has many birth defects. I want to abort, he does not. This was a planned baby and I'm absolutely devastated. Me and my husband met in college and have been married for 6 years now. We have one son who is now 4 years old. I know some people are gonna wonder, but yes, we did discuss our moral political views before even getting engaged, and we're both pro-choice. When we were 21 and 20, we made a stupid mistake that ended in a pregnancy. We were both flat broke and not at all ready for kids. I decided to terminate and he fully agreed with and supported me. He loves our son so much and is an amazing father. He confided in me that he loved the idea of having a daughter as well. Luckily, we're in a good financial place, so I agreed and we started trying for a second baby. We conceived fairly quickly and were overjoyed. We also soon discovered that we're having a girl. My husband was so excited. As soon as he was told, he went all out and started to plan her nursery. He asked our son to help him pick which shade of pink he wanted, which crib to get, what the theme should be, etc. It was all so adorable. I don't want to reveal any personal medical history, so forgive me for being vague with the descriptions. At our last doctor's visit a few days ago, we were given the news that our daughter has severe birth defects. They think that she could possibly survive the birth, but any life that she gets to experience will be painful for her. There have been medical cases of babies with the same conditions to survive from early childhood to even the teenage years. These poor children suffer with so much pain and are uncomfortable their entire lives. They are very low functioning and need around-the-clock care as well as several uncomfortable surgeries to try and give them a better quality of life. We were both heartbroken and cried for hours together in the car. Then we drove home in silence. Neither of us said anything until my husband began to quietly mumble his thoughts. He was going on and on about how we needed to schedule another doctor's appointment so we know what medical equipment we'd need to buy for her, and we should renovate the nursery again so we could care for her more easily. He said that he'd definitely have to talk to his boss so he can take a longer paternity leave. He wants to be by her side in the NICU until we can take her home. He talked about how we'd have to ask his mom to babysit our son more often while she's a newborn. He even said that maybe we could sell one of our cars, move to a smaller house, and take our son out of private school so we'd have more money to pay for our daughter's care. I was silent until he asked me what I thought. I was blunt and said that I think we should terminate the pregnancy. Now I feel bad for saying it that way, but I was still frazzled from the news. This made him very upset. He began to cry and ask why I don't want our daughter, even with disabilities. I mentioned our previous abortion. He said it was different because it was unplanned and we had no way to take care of the child. Now we're in a pretty good place financially, so theoretically we could shoulder the cost of our daughter. I have a bit of personal history with this type of situation. My best friend in high school was at my house all the time because her parents were way too busy with her severely autistic older brother. They did love her, but she was pushed to the side her entire childhood. I told him this story. He said that we'd do better by our son and daughter. My best friend's parents were stupid for having a second kid after they already had a disabled one. He then seemed hopeful for a minute and asked if I was just afraid. He promised that he'd be by my side the whole time and we could do this together. I told him it's not about fear. Our daughter will be in pain constantly if she's born alive. It would be a short and painful life for her. I love this baby so much already, I don't want her to suffer like that. He began to yell that even if she doesn't live long we could still pour our hearts and souls into making her life as fulfilling as possible. I didn't respond and he stormed inside. It's been a couple days now and he won't even look me in the eyes. He sits in the new nursery for hours. Our son is very confused. I know he's grieving, but I really don't want to go further with this pregnancy. I love him so much, I have no idea what to do now. TLDR, husband and I learned that our planned daughter has many birth defects that would devastate her quality of life. I want to abort in order to save her from an existence full of pain. My husband wants to keep her so we can love her for however long she lives. Relevant comments. My daughter has a 20-year-old autistic bipolar daughter, my granddaughter. There are 3 daughters in total, one older and one younger. The autistic child cannot self-entertain and will always have the mentality of a 6-year-old child. My daughter's marriage fell apart and the ex-husband wasn't around to take any responsibility. Plus, my daughter was rarely reimbursed for medical and dental out-of-pocket expenses. The oldest daughter, the glass child, was parentified so her mother could work nights. She now has gone no contact with her mother and blocked her everywhere due to her childhood losses. The younger child has lived in the shadow of the autistic sister and has many issues going on. My daughter can't leave the two of them at home because the older sister becomes violent. When toddlers, the youngest had to have her hair cut short because her autistic sister would pull her long hair out by the roots and rip her scalp all bloodied. It was awful. My daughter is movie star beautiful, but men who have professed their love for her and had wanted to marry her, but not the disabled daughter. My autistic granddaughter cannot self-entertain and is a Velcro person so is always there. It's been a family tragedy. My daughter is a prisoner in her own home. My ex-husband would not help. I work full-time and had gone to school at night so I was pretty much depleted. Plus, my autistic granddaughter is hard to keep. I love my granddaughter, but I would not wish her life or my daughter's life on my worst enemy. It hurts me to say this, but it would be a mercy to not bring this severely disabled child into the world. What a cruel thing to bring this unborn child into the world. The husband is out of his mind with grief and cannot see the whole picture. The wife needs to make up her own mind, even with the sad choice to divorce if it comes to it. To the haters out there, unless you have walked in another person's shoes, you cannot understand this catastrophic situation. I would also want to terminate. Can you guys talk to a therapist? Do you have time? OP's reply, we have a bit of time, but if we don't resolve this soon termination will be impossible. Update. Thank you all so much for the advice and kind words. I'm sorry I haven't responded to many chats and comments. I've read through them all. The empathy and compassion shown is truly touching. After I made my original post, my husband and I rushed to get a second opinion. Nothing changed and it was still our original diagnosis. Once I learned that, I scheduled the termination for as soon as physically possible. I didn't tell my husband at first. He kept on raving about how we could give her as much love in her life as we can. I feel bad for this now, but I snapped and angrily told him I was terminating the pregnancy. That I know how he feels, but I will not allow my daughter to suffer just because he wants to love her. He was very angry with me after I put my foot down. After he realized his pleading wouldn't change my mind, he didn't speak a word to me. It was like he refused to even acknowledge my existence. I was terrified that he'd go and leave me all alone with the scraps of our family. I tried to explain it to my son, but I think he still doesn't understand. Then, the night before the procedure, he stepped into my room and apologized for everyone and promised to be more supportive of me from now on. I was so happy and relieved I started to sob and he held me all night. My original plan was that my mom would drive me to the hospital, then once it's done a close friend would take me home. Since it was only the night before, he said he couldn't miss a full day of work, but really wanted to drive me home. I agreed to let him and then the procedure was done in the morning. My son is having a long sleepover with my best friend's family. I don't want him to see me like this. The next morning the termination was done. It went fine with only minor physical pain, but the emotional toll was crushing. After I was done, he didn't show up to get me. I waited for hours and he wouldn't answer any of my calls. I ended up having to call a friend out from work to take me home. When we got there, I saw just one note on the counter saying he can't do this. A few of our daughter's special toys were removed from her nursery. My entire life has fallen apart in a matter of days. I asked my mom to watch my son for a little while. I still can't contact my husband. Everything feels so pointless. Relevant comments. I'm a doctor and I work in an ICU seeing children exactly like the one you may have had. If I were in your position, I would have done the same thing. Let me be clear and say that nobody in your partner's position has a clue of the emotional toll that parents of severely disabled children go through. Everyone thinks they know what it would be like, but they're often wrong, and more often the parents of the child are struggling a lot. Whatever happens, FYW, I think you made the harder, but smarter decision. Who's to say your husband wouldn't leave the exact same way after seeing your daughter suffer alive in actual pain? Leaves you a note on the table one night, "I can't do this," and leaves you to care for her yourself. 3 weeks ago, I got beat up defending 2 girls. My girlfriend felt unsafe, grew distant, and moved to her parents, leaving me to recover alone. First of all, I want to thank every single one of you who commented on my last post. The love and support I received was immense and it actually made me feel a little better in the mess of it all. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. All of the following happened yesterday, so excuse me if I ramble a bit, it's all fresh in my mind. Original post. Mandatory. I have been with my GF Sarah for 3 years and been living together for 1.5. She is honestly everything I have ever wanted and I am planning on proposing somewhere next year. So 3 weeks ago I was out with Sarah at a local bar drinking and having a great time with her as it was just after quarantine had ended where I live. At around 3 a.m. we decided to head home. As we headed to the parking lot where we had parked, we noticed a group of 2 girls and a guy who was clearly drunk trying to hit on them and get them to go to his house. The girls were clearly very uncomfortable and trying to find a way out. Sarah told me that we had to do something and I told her to go call the cops and get someone as well because the very least I wanted was her to get hurt during this. So I approached the group and tried to pretend I was the boyfriend of one of the 2 girls and long story short I got my ass kicked. The guy was at least 6'4" and 220 pounds whereas I'm 5'11", 167 pounds. I'm fairly muscular myself but there was no way I could have taken someone that big, I knew it from the start. At least from all the noise we had made, a lot of people rushed to the scene and the girls got away safe. I was rushed to the ER because the motherfucker had broken my ribs which had punctured my right lung. Yay. After that incident Sarah has grown distant from me. Even though she visited and stayed with me at the hospital she hasn't been the same since. And I thought she just needed time to move past this. However 5 days ago she told me that she is not the same person after what happened and she doesn't know if she feels safe with me after I got beat up like that. Honestly, hearing that hurt me more than when I got my ribs broken. She has moved to her parents for the time being and she told me she needs time. Meanwhile I had no one here to help me so my brother left his 2 boys and wife to move in with me. I know I'm just venting at this point but I don't want this to be over like that. Reddit, is there anything I can do to salvage the situation? Update. Until yesterday it had been 14 days since my last contact with Sarah. My brother had left 4 days prior because I felt bad keeping him away from his family for so long, plus I could take care of myself to some extent. So around 2 p.m. while I was making lunch I heard the doorbell ring. I go to open the door and there she is. Sarah. With tears in her eyes, eye bags, frizzy hair, looking like a total mess. During the time we've been together I've seen her in her ups and downs, but I'd never seen her in such a horrible state before. So I let her sit on the couch. We still hadn't said a word as we were both dumbfounded. I was so overwhelmed by emotions, I wanted to hug her. I wanted to full blast her. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. So I did nothing and waited for her to talk. After 5 or 10 minutes of silence she starts sobbing and saying she's sorry and then crying. At this point I can barely hold myself together. So I hold her hand and try to calm her down so I can figure out what is going on. After a while she finally somewhat calms down and starts talking. And that's where it got bad. Something that I didn't include in the original post, because it wouldn't make sense anyway, is that Sarah's mother has been divorced and remarried once. From what Sarah has told me, her biological father cheated on her mother while she was still a kid and that's why they broke up. And that's also why she doesn't have any kind of relationship with her father. It seemed odd when I first learned about it, but I didn't question it. That is not the whole story though. Sarah's biological father didn't only cheat on her mother. He was a drug addict that also used to beat her up frequently. Without getting into a lot of graphic detail, in one instance when Sarah's brother tried to intervene and protect her mother he ended up getting beat up too. So when she saw me intervening and getting my ass kicked in the bar incident, it triggered some kind of PTSD in her head that she could not control. That's why she had grown distant and eventually left. It all spiraled out of control and she could not handle it. In those 2 weeks we'd been apart she'd barely eaten or slept and even made some really dark thoughts which I'd rather not go into. She told me as a horrible girlfriend for leaving me alone in my condition and that she doesn't expect us to be together again after that, which I told her isn't the case. So we have a very long road ahead of us. My number one priority right now is getting her to see a therapist, which I suggested we can do together if she's scared to do alone. So yeah, that's where we are at. Some of you were right, that there was some deeper issue behind what happened, but I could not have possibly known. I also wanted to take this opportunity to say something that I got messaged about a lot. I got a lot of comments and messages saying that I was a moron for what I did at that parking lot and that I should mind my own business next time and not play the hero, etc. First of all, I did not initiate the fight with the dude. As I said when I got there, I tried to pretend I was the boyfriend of one of the girls in case. When that didn't work, I got between the girls and the dude, trying to create some space between them, and that's when he started to push me and eventually started throwing punches. Secondly, no matter how hard I hit the gym, I would never be able to take that guy one-on-one. As I said, I'm pretty fit and I've been working out for several years, but the fella was a lot bigger than me. Unless I had a gun or something, which isn't legal in my country, I was doomed. Finally, for the people telling me to mind my own business, well, let me tell you exactly what I was doing. It is mine and everyone else's responsibility to look after the ones who can't protect themselves in this shitty world. No, I do not consider myself a hero, nor did I do it for the show. I did it because in some other instance one of those girls could have been my girlfriend, sister, mother needing help. And these girls were somebody else's girlfriend, sister or mother. If I was put in that situation 100 more times I would act the same. Edit. I also talked to her about the proposal I wanted to make this year. I was planning on doing it as a surprise, but in the way things have turned out I figured it would be better if she knew it first. We both agreed it should be delayed for now. Am I the asshole for returning to my career to escape the overwhelming responsibility of caring for my husband's autistic niece? My husband, 30M, became the legal guardian to his sister's daughter, 17F, 2 months ago. She lost her single mom last year. My in-laws took her in, but they were too old. That was when my husband became her legal guardian despite my concerns. He told me that he would take care of her completely. We got married a year ago after 15 years of dating. I had a very successful career in a very physically and mentally demanding field. I had to travel a lot. We wanted to start a family and I agreed to be a stay-at-home mom. I quit my job a few months into the marriage when I got pregnant. Sadly, I had a miscarriage. Then his sister died and everything is on hold. In the meantime, I took a part-time job in a related field which allows remote work so that I am not bored out of my mind. My SIL was a nurse. She quit her job to take care of her daughter full-time. Her daughter has a variety of issues including nonverbal autism, a series of development disorders like dyslexia and severe sensory issues. My husband says that he does most of the work. But he doesn't. Since I am working from home part-time, most of the caretaking falls to me. She gets angry and has meltdowns all the time. She doesn't like the food I make, and most of the time she ends up throwing food at the floor or at me. I am at my wit's end, and it is just so emotionally exhausting. Around December 15th, my husband was working late and asked me to take care of dinner. She is very picky about food. The slightest change in texture or taste from what she is used to can cause a meltdown. She threw the plate at my feet and I ended up bleeding. At that point, I called my husband and asked him to be home ASAP. He said he wouldn't be able to. I went up to my room and told him I'm not dealing with this anymore. He came hours later and she was still crying. He was absolutely furious at me. He called him heartless and irresponsible. I told him I've had enough of both of their ungrateful behavior and told him that I'm going to my mom's and I wouldn't be back until New Year's. He panicked and tried to apologize, but I left. He called me every day asking me to come back. I finally came back and he told me that my stunt had forced him to all available leaves to stay home with her. He told me that he was glad I was back. I told him that I contacted my former company and got my old job back and it starts next Monday. It is in office and requires a lot of travel. He asked me who was supposed to stay at home as she cannot be left alone. He has no more leaves and full-time caretakers are too expensive. I told him he promised to take care of everything when he became her guardian and that it was his problem. As you can guess, my family supports me and his family thinks I am being extremely selfish. So I'm asking for judgment from impartial strangers. AITA in this situation. Update. Lot of people were messaging me for an update. So, here goes. I wish I could say things got better. My husband took a few days off to interview special needs nanny caretakers. He ended up finding a good and experienced person to take on the job. He hired her for 6 weekdays. One day, she ended up saying she cannot make it for a couple of days due to an emergency. My husband had a meeting he couldn't miss and asked me to look after his niece for the day. I refused and he took my car keys while I was getting ready and left before I noticed so that I could not go to work. I grew up with a narcissistic gaslighting father who did stuff like this all the time. I told him to come back in 1 hour or I will call CPS and once they get there, I will call a cab and get to work. He ended up driving back and this turned into a big fight and I told him that if he does it again, I will walk out and never look back. He apologized and said that he was just desperate. The worst happened 2 weeks ago. I needed to travel for a couple of weeks for work and I could not find my passport. I am a very organized person and I knew that I did not misplace it. I ended up calling the non-emergency helpline. They ransacked the house and found the passports hidden in his gym bag. It is a crime to steal passports and they asked me if I wanted to press charges. I said no. Another fight. He told me that he needed me at home that weekend due to a social welfare visit and he knew that I would not stay even if he had asked me. I kicked them both out of my house and I told him I would call the police if he came near me again. My house is a premarital asset, thank God for that. I told him that I would be filing for divorce. The welfare visit turned into shit as neither of them were living there when the worker showed up and the social worker also knew about the recent call to the non-emergency helpline. So, all in all, she was not impressed with our bullshit. He came by 2 days ago. He told me that ended up moving in with his parents. They own and live in a small 2-bedroom apartment. That doesn't qualify according to welfare norms. He ended up asking me for another chance. He asked if I would consider letting him and niece stay until they figured it out or she would have to go to state's care. He told me that there is no way he can afford rent and a carer and begged me. I told him that I could never forgive what he did. He knew my past with my father and he still went ahead and did it. He suggested they could move in and we can work on this at couples counseling. I told him that I could never trust him again and that it was over. He asked me if he could get his parents to take in the niece or even relinquished her care to the state, if I would give him another chance. I think months' worth of anger burst that day. I told him that even though it may appear as if the problem between us is niece, it was actually him. He didn't ask me before taking her in. He did nothing to help. He waved my concerns away whenever I felt burnt out. He took on a responsibility without consulting me and dumped everything on me. He chose to take my keys. He chose to hide my passport. I told him things may have been different. Him, my niece and I may have adapted and become a family if he hadn't made the wrong choice, at my expense, at every turn. I told him to get out of my house, it was over and I never want to see any of them ever again. I still don't know if what I'm doing is right or wrong. I know people wanted some sort of happy ending, but it is what it is. I still have not started the divorce proceedings yet, but I will soon. For now, I am taking a break as it has been a very emotional and draining couple of weeks.
My husband, a beloved high school teacher, might be secretly cheating with a former student. Seeking advice on next steps and legal action. Original post, July 8, 2024. I am freaking out right now. My partner is a high school math teacher. He has been teaching for a decade now and has generally been praised by students, parents, other teachers, and the administration for how he does his job. We have been together for 7 years and got married in 2023. I have never worried about him being interested in his students. We have even discussed teacher-student relationships, and he has always expressed disgust, saying it is an abuse of power, even if the student is an adult. He has never been called out for being inappropriate, that I know of, never engaged with students over the weekend or summer, unless it is school-related, and even then, all contact is through school email or with parents. He generally refers to his students as his kids, and actively keeps a distance from developing too close of a relationship because he is young, attractive, and other male teachers recommended he do so. Here's what happened. Around March, we were at the movie theater one evening and I noticed a group of girls staring and pointing. I notified my partner, assuming they were his students, and he told me I was right. We did not go over to say hi. We have seen his students before out and about, and he says hi on a case-by-case basis but typically does not initiate, and they did not come to us. However, I noticed the rest of the girls playfully shoving one girl with lots of whispers, and the girl was staring at my husband sheepishly. I immediately thought she probably had a crush and honestly thought nothing of it until last weekend. We were celebrating Canada Day at a BBQ with family, and my husband was pretty wasted. At one point, he went to the bathroom and did not come back for so long. I was worried he was getting sick, so I checked on him. When I knocked and said it was me, he said he was okay and would be right out but did not unlock the door. He stayed in the bathroom for another 10 minutes. This was super unusual for him, but it could have been anything. Later that night, I woke up around 3 a.m. and he was not in bed. Worried again, I got up and found him on his phone in the living room. This is also unusual. When I asked what he was doing, he was definitely surprised and hit his phone screen. He said he could not sleep and did not want to wake me up by watching videos next to me in bed. We both went back to sleep together. The next morning, he was hungover and slept in. I went through his phone. I have never had a reason not to trust him, so I have never gone through his phone before. I found nothing of interest, except for the Snapchat app, which was not logged into. He used to use Snapchat but, from what I knew, had not in years. I honestly assumed nothing from finding the app and figured I was reading too much into things. Last night, I saw a Snapchat notification pop up on his phone while we were watching TV. It was out of the corner of my eye but the logo is too recognizable to mistake. My heart dropped because, knowing he was logged out last week, it means he is definitely using it secretly. I pretended like I did not notice and a couple of minutes later, he got up to take a long poop. I cried while he was in the bathroom. Shortly after, I said I was going to bed early and he stayed up without me. He is on summer break. When I got up for work, he was still passed out. I went on his phone and found no Snapchat app. It was then that I knew something was shady for sure, and when I looked up Snapchat on the home screen, it was there, just hidden in a folder of apps disguised as cooking and workout apps. He had not logged out of Snapchat, and when I opened it, there was only one conversation with a real human, and it was a girl. There was no evidence of conversation between them because, for those who do not know, Snapchat deletes previous messages for good. I was ready to confront him for cheating with basically no evidence but decided to keep snooping for something concrete. In that same disguised folder, I found that he had OnlyFans downloaded. The only content creator he was subscribed to had the same username as the woman on Snapchat, but it is his student. The one from the theater, who was blushing. I have never recognized a face so fast. I am 100% certain. We make fun of OnlyFans simps all the time, so I was already disgusted, but I actually threw up when I found this. I was scared I was going to wake him up and genuinely did not know what to do, so I put his phone back and left for work. At work, I did some sleuthing and was able to find the girl's Instagram and Twitter accounts. She is 18 and from grad photos I can tell with certainty that she attended my husband's school. The same OnlyFans link was in her Twitter bio. He has texted me normally throughout the day, and I have not responded to any but to tell him I have to go to my parents tonight, but in reality, I am still at work because I do not know what to do. The reality is that this is messed up, but she has graduated. Is this now just the same as any old affair? I don't even know if she was in any of his classes. I do not know what to think. I do not know what to do next. Lawyer. Should I ask my husband and see what he says? Should I ask her? Edit to add, does anybody know how to tell when an app was first downloaded? Too long, didn't read. My teacher husband is Snapchatting and subscribed to the OnlyFans of a student from his school who is 18. Help. Update. This blew up and there's too many comments to reply to. Update July 9th, 2024. Next day. My post blew up and there were many comments asking for updates, so I want to provide one. I read every single comment, but there were too many to reply to individually. To clarify a few things, no, I did not take pictures or screenshots of the Snapchats or OnlyFans. I was so upset that I did not even think about it until afterward, and I thought there would be another chance to get them. I realize I made a mistake. Regarding some of my early comments, my brain was still reeling. I am 100% leaving my husband, to make it clear. It took me some time to come to terms with what was actually happening and the fact that I was in denial, but Reddit helped me get there, so thank you. The comments were about 50-50 split between advising me to talk to a lawyer or to my husband first. The reality is that I did not think I had anywhere else to go at the time, and I was so emotional last night and felt like I needed to know. I wanted to confront him and rip off the Band-Aid. He called me while I was still at work, and I ended up telling him we needed to talk. He seemed thrown off by this and canceled plans to stay in. I did not get home for almost 3 hours after that, crying and deciding what to do. Ultimately, I went home. If you're ever in the same position, do not do what I did. I wanted to follow the advice of many comments by basically saying I know about her, but I really wanted to get pictures of the evidence first, so I planned on playing it cool, saying never mind, all is okay, until we went to sleep and then sneaking back on his phone. I shouldn't have said anything on the phone, but my emotions got the better of me. But when I walked in the house, I immediately felt like he knew that I knew. He said, "What's up?" super standoffish, just seemed off, and whatever I said on the phone must have tipped him off. Either that, or he was able to tell that I was on his phone in the morning somehow, pretending to be asleep? I'm not sure. So I couldn't control myself and got super emotional and confronted him on the spot. I asked if he had OnlyFans. It was the first thing out of my mouth, and he literally said, "No, what did you want to talk about?" I told him I knew that he did and he denied. I told him I went on his phone this morning and scoffed and walked away. I followed him, crying and screaming that I knew he had OnlyFans and Snapchat. I told him that I was leaving him and finally cried out something about him cheating with his students. When I said that, he immediately turned around and asked what the fuck I was talking about. I told him that I knew about the girl, who was 18 years old, and his face genuinely turned into someone I didn't recognize. He immediately began yelling in my face that I didn't know what I was talking about. How dare I accuse him of sleeping with his students, and that I was crazy and trying to ruin his life. I was screaming back at him. I told him to open his phone and prove it, and he laughed in my face about how stupid somebody would be to do what I'm accusing him of, and basically threw his phone at my face and said, "Knock yourself out." As people can probably guess, there was nothing. He definitely knew before I got home. He was logged out of Snapchat, and when I asked him to log in and stop lying, he logged into a different account and asked me if I would drop it now. The first account had just the 18-year-old girl and a few AI accounts. This one had all his old college group chats and other people, including me. He gaslit me and swore he didn't have another account. He even suggested that I had dreamt all of this. At one point he finally admitted that he subscribed to an OF for a streamer during one of our intimacy lulls but never a student, and he swore he lied because he loved me and doesn't engage in that kind of behavior anymore. It was just hours of lies and gaslighting. He said that he knew which student I was talking about, but that he's never spoken to her or taught her. He didn't recall the movie theater incident and accused me of imagining it too. He denied receiving Snapchat at all a few nights ago when I first saw it. He denied acting shady the days before. He denied everything. I was absolutely disgusted by him the whole night. As the conversation went on, he started to talk about how he's going to get us marriage counseling, that my trust issues can be worked on, and he would leave teaching if it's what it took for me to stay, but never admitted to anything with a student. Admittedly, I was starting to get a bit of a gaslight fog about the situation, believing some of what he was saying, but when he volunteered to leave teaching, I knew it was worse than I knew. Because teaching is his everything, He gave up an amazing opportunity which would have made him 3-4x the money and way more recognition to teach, and has never complained about his job a day in his life. We both know he loves his job more than he loves me. If this was truly all a misunderstanding, or if it was a one-off with a graduated non-student, I just think he would do more to protect his job and his career. He wouldn't just leave over crazy behavior from me. That immediately told me everything I needed to know, that he was panicking on the inside about me leaving and me telling people. Maybe because more happened with 18F than what I know, maybe because he's done this before, I'm not sure. But he fucked up bad. It's so late, I was so exhausted, and I feigned agreement in working through it and told him I could move past it, but I was obviously lying. I need time to get shit in order. He is sleeping in the guest room tonight. I told him I would need a lot of space and he said he was okay with that. He left his phone in our bedroom for the night as a peace offering. I hate his fucking guts. I have so many things on my mind right now. What the fuck to do? How to get a lawyer? If I should tell my family. If I should tell the school, the fact that I have no proof but I know what I saw. The fact that I'll be 33 and divorced. Above all, the fact that my husband may have slept with this girl, that's my gut telling me, because he kept repeating that he would never sleep with his students over and over, when I was using words like cheat with, look at porn of, or sexed with. So that's the update. I was gaslit and lied to. I got no sleep last night but still went to work this morning to get away from him. He hasn't texted me or called all day. I want nothing more than to go to the school with this info. My heartbreak is gone and I'm just angry and disgusted and want to right his wrongs, but I need him to admit to it so I can know how bad it is, and I don't think he will. I was thinking of telling him that I reached out to the girl. I'm not going to, and see if that freaks him out enough to come clean, but what if she doesn't know? Maybe he's using a fake account. Or just saying I have proof, even though I don't. Anybody have any good ideas? In the meantime, I am looking for divorce lawyer ASAP. Too long, didn't read. I found proof of my husband Snapchatting and subscribing to a student's OnlyFans, but now all the evidence is gone and he has gaslit me. I have no idea where to go from here besides starting the divorce process. Relevant comments. First, get an attorney. Follow the advice of said attorney. Second, any chance of contacting this girl's parents? I'm sure they would have a better chance of finding proof and have every reason to want to do so. OP, I thought about contacting her parents. I don't know if they would care though. She's 18, and my husband works at a school with many disadvantaged kids. He teaches advanced math and said she wasn't in his advanced classes, has never been in his classes, and she's not a smart student, so he would never have had a reason to interact with her. If that's the case, who knows what the parents would think. I'm also scared it's overreaching and that she could get in trouble for having an OnlyFans if I tell her parents. I will ask the lawyer this once I speak to one. Lastly, talk to a lawyer and get a PI involved. You will get your answers, he can't completely hide everything. OP, I am leaning towards the PI. I understand everybody saying to divorce him and I don't need evidence. I am 100% planning to do so. I don't know how long this whole process will be, but that will happen. I will probably have to live with him in the meantime, as we both spend the majority of our income on our house. But I do not plan on being intimate with him ever again. The thing is, he is beloved in the community. I genuinely think people would believe him over me. Maybe I'm wrong, but his family would never believe me, I know. Even my own family will be shocked. I want to hurt him like he's hurt me and maybe even hurt other people. So I want proof. I think I'll look into some pleas. Are there PIs who can investigate somebody online though? Or just in real life? My fiancée got a face tattoo without any warning, leading to a sudden breakup and unraveling of her life. Now I'm left questioning everything. Original post, November 4th, 2022. I'm honestly stunned right now. My fiancée, Kim, I have just learned, is completely insane. She took some days off work this week, claiming to be sick and avoided seeing most people in person. She said she was feeling sick and just wanted to stay home alone. She has never given me any reason to think she would lie about this in the 6 years we've been together. No one in her family was worried because she was always a stable individual who would never do anything crazy. She got a face tattoo. She took 3 sick days from work to recover from getting a face tattoo. She told no one about this plan beforehand. In all our time together, Kim has never mentioned tattoos to me. She showed no indication that she was even interested in getting any. I was not even the first to find out. Her sister visited her because she got worried after Kim canceled meeting with her for lunch on her third sick day and got the grand reveal. Kim didn't tell anyone beforehand because she didn't want to be talked out of it, and hid the results because the swelling and redness were so bad that we would react badly and not understand the artistic meaning. Kim is Asian American. She got Japanese symbols going down her forehead and under her eye. I don't know the meaning of them, and I don't really know if I care to know. Kim's parents are Japanese immigrants. According to her sister, who kindly informed me of this whole debacle, this is a big no-no in Japanese culture. Tattoos have links to crime and are looked down upon. Her parents are beside themselves, and that is a whole other set of drama I can't even begin to approach. Kim talked to me last night about it and acted offended and started a fight because I told her it was absolutely insane of her to do this. She works a public-facing job in the financial industry. The minute her boss finds out, the career she went to school for will be over. She actually didn't consider her job, her family, or me at all and decided a long time ago that she was going to express herself freely without any concerns. I am worried about her right now. This is not normal. She blocked my number after our fight and is ghosting me and her sister because we're trying to help. But dear Lord, this is far beyond me. I cannot comprehend what I'm even supposed to do right now. Kim has lost her mind. Is there any chance I will be happy married to this? A woman who went and got a face tattoo and hide that fact because she knew we would all talk her out of it? Dear Lord, I really need to run, don't I? Wow, this got some attention, huh? I read through the replies, but I can't respond to all of you, so I'll just update here. The engagement is pretty much off. Kim has told me she never wants to see me again, and I woke up this morning with her ring and a box of stuff I gave her on my porch. I don't know what's going on with her. Her sister and family have been trying their best, but nothing on their end is working. I brought up to her sister the idea that this is a mental breakdown, and they are looking into getting her help. It's painfully slow, considering Kim is not responding to anything and is refusing to talk to anyone. I really don't know what to say here, I guess. To answer some questions, Kim is 29, and I'm 28. In the 7 years I've known her, she has never acted like this at all. She had a good relationship with her parents, and while they were a bit overbearing at times, they supported her in going to college and getting a career rather than starting a family. From what I've gathered, they probably would have been fine with any tattoo she got as long as it was not on her face, neck or hands. Even then, this kind of behavior is as far from Kim as I could have imagined. She just lost her mind out of nowhere? It's not like I can do anything about it either. She's blocked my number and does not want to see me. I'm just at a loss for words. One day I'm engaged, and the next I'm not, and my ex has a face tattoo. Update. 8 months later, July 27, 2023. About 9 months ago, my ex-fiancée, Kim, got a face tattoo without telling anyone. This was just the beginning of her doing everything she could to ruin her life. She broke up with me and called off our 7-year relationship when I questioned why she did this. She worked in a client-facing job for a large financial institution and was let go within a month of showing up for work with the tattoo. I kept in contact with Kim's sister, hoping for some news. They tried to get her help, thinking she was having some kind of psychotic break. However, Kim eventually called the police on her own family, claiming they were harassing her. After that, I decided to just walk away. Kim didn't just destroy her own life. When she broke up with me, I felt numb. I knew this wasn't Kim doing this. I wanted to believe deep down that Kim was always like this. Always this impulsive crazy who would ruin her life by getting a face tattoo. I tried to convince myself that I had not lost a wonderful woman who I had spent 7 years of my life with. However, the person who made these choices was not Kim. The woman who told me over the phone she hated my guts for not supporting her. The woman who wrote she hated me and only ever stayed with me out of pity. That was not the woman I asked to marry. That was not Kim. That was someone who I came to find out was having a mental breakdown. That resulted in months of bad decisions that will affect the rest of her life. The day I walked away and told her sister I could not deal with it anymore was the worst day of my life. It hit me like a train. The numbness and denial of what I lost hit me all at once. I almost quit my own job and moved back home to my parents. I can only thank my boss for being so understanding that she let me take 4 weeks off to deal with what happened. She and the rest of my team went far beyond what should ever be expected of coworkers and management. It makes me realize how close I was to leaving a job I actually enjoy. I never moved on from Kim, but I came to accept what had happened. I thought I was okay until 2 weeks ago. I got a call from Kim. She had blocked my number and done everything she could to remove me from her life. My mind just blanked when I saw it was her calling. I picked up, and it was actually her. We didn't talk. I did not know what to say to her. We decided she would come over to my place, and we talked. The tattoo is still there, but she's covering it up now with makeup. She says when she has the funds she's going to look into getting it removed if possible. She had lost a lot of weight since I last saw her. She's not been able to find a new job. She'll probably need to move to a new city for that. She wasn't the Kim I had fallen in love with. She was like a shell of her. Something just wasn't there anymore that used to be. Kim told me what had happened. The year leading up to the tattoo was awful for her. The stress of everything seemed to pile up more and more. I'll respect her, and keep much of what she told me secret. However, the thing that is important is that she secretly started doing methamphetamines to keep her performance up at work and to deal with everything. And one day, she just out of nowhere decided she hated everything about her life. She explained why at the time she wanted the tattoo. It doesn't really make much sense, but a lot of what she was thinking at the time didn't. And from there, she just lost control of everything. I won't talk about what happened after she disappeared, but it is not pretty. There are things she did that will follow her for the rest of her life. It explained a lot, but it did not make things any better. We talked for nearly the entire night. She didn't leave my place till almost 4 a.m. Since then, she's said that she wants to try and get back together with me. She admitted she knows things cannot be the same. Yet, she wants to try. I haven't talked to anyone about what I'm about to say yet. I've held off on talking to Kim about it because it feels selfish. But there's something about the way Kim acts about the way it affected my life that irks me. When we talked that night, she said that I was lucky she cut me off. I was lucky I didn't get put through any of this. I was lucky that my crazy ex wasn't at my door screaming or showing up to my work and causing a scene. She acts like my life wasn't affected at all. I told her what happened after she left. How much it hurt, how I almost quit my job and moved across the country. Her response was dismissive. Like because I didn't go through with that I don't get to complain. She acted like because I was not the one with the tattoo on her face, I don't get to act like it had long-lasting effects on me. She didn't even apologize for the explicit and hateful note she left with my things when she returned them. Or for the phone call where she called me a manipulative, selfish asshole, who only wanted her for her body. Or even just for breaking up with me. She knows she was wrong to do it, but it's almost as if she's acting like because she had a breakdown, I can't hold her accountable for what she did to me because it wasn't long-lasting. I texted her last night, saying how hard it was for me when she left. She ignored it entirely and tried to move on. No acknowledgement at all. I don't know why, but it hurt me. It hurt me so much. I feel like I did back when all those emotions finally hit me after she left. I wish she had just never come back into my life now. I wish I didn't know what happened. I wish I hadn't picked up the call, because it hurts. But a part of me feels like I'm being selfish or complaining too much. That I don't get to feel this way, because I'm not the one who had the mental breakdown. New update. My ex died of a drug overdose. June 13, 2024, 1 year after the first update, I learned yesterday that my ex, Kim, died of a drug overdose on Sunday. I'm still processing the news, I guess. We broke up 2 years ago after Kim got a face tattoo out of nowhere. I have some other posts on this account about that, if you want the full story. Kim reappeared in my life about a year ago after breaking up with me and essentially becoming a ghost. She wanted to get back together with me, and I stupidly considered it and let her get a foot in the door. She claimed she was clean, but she wasn't. It was obvious she was still using meth, and my guess is she was still using fentanyl. After I finally declined to get back together with her, she slashed my tires after causing a scene at my office. Luckily, she's been out of my life for about 6 months now after a cop put the fear of God in her after she broke the restraining order. I haven't heard much about Kim since then, thankfully. Last I heard, she was wanted on a warrant and was lying low across state lines. Yesterday, Kim's sister called me to let me know she was found dead on Sunday morning. She wanted me to hear it from her instead of through the grapevine. I appreciate it. Despite everything, Kim's family has been nothing but kind to me. Kim's parents are quietly cremating her and there won't be any ceremony. It seems that stealing from and abusing her family since she started doing meth has made them just as detached about her as I am. Or maybe they've already mourned the loss of their daughter long ago and now is just the end of whatever remained. Right now, I don't know how to feel. I feel like I should be sad. I knew Kim for 7 years. I was with her for 6. I was engaged to her. I lost my virginity to her. She was the first person I truly loved. I used to sit up with her and talk about the family I wanted to have. I wanted Kim to be the mother of my kids. She sat up with me as I cried when I heard the news of my mother's death. At one point in my life, she was the most important thing in the world to me. And I don't feel anything. When Kim left me, I was devastated. When she came back into my life, she made me feel a combination of emotions I can't even describe. And now, hearing the news that she's dead, I don't feel anything. I don't feel numb. I'm not in shock. I just am lacking any emotion toward this event at all. I feel like I should feel something. Right? I still miss Kim. Not the Kim that died Sunday. Not the Kim that stalked me. But the Kim I met. The Kim I fell in love with. The Kim that died when she started to do meth. I still feel sad when I think about her. But knowing this other Kim is dead just makes me feel nothing. Highlighted comments. One user reflected on the long road to recovery, noting how others can be hurt along the way, even if they never use the drug themselves. They expressed hope that the OP gets a good therapist and suggested doing something small and symbolic to honor the person he once knew and loved. Mental health and addiction are no jokes. Both require immense effort and hard work to make any progress. Another commenter found the story incredibly sad, expressing sympathy for Kim, OP, and Kim's family. They weren't surprised that drugs were involved but lamented the fact that Kim felt she had to turn to them to cope. They also wished OP well and hoped he was doing okay. One person shared a personal experience, comparing it to their own thoughts about either meth or bipolar disorder. They mentioned a bipolar friend who had gotten questionable tattoos while manic. They found the story heartbreaking and empathized with everyone involved, noting that we never know what's happening behind the scenes. They related to OP's feelings, recalling an ex who ended up addicted to uppers and was no longer the person they once knew. Another user expressed fear about the possibility of someone important in their life suddenly changing completely without warning. They couldn't imagine losing a friend of 6 years this way, let alone a fiancé. Stories like this terrify them. Finally, one commenter shared their fear of trying drugs, worried about who they might become. They mentioned seeing firsthand how even marijuana could exacerbate anxiety and how drug use can sometimes treat, worsen, or even cause mental illness. Coming from a family with a history of mental illness, they preferred not to find out what might happen to them under the influence.
My girlfriend said she was with a friend, but that same friend was with me choosing an engagement ring. How do I address her lie? God, this is a doozy. I swear my life feels like a movie right now. Sorry for the weird formatting. I'm on mobile and this is my first time posting on a sub like this. I, 28M, am planning on proposing to my girlfriend of 3 years, 26F. Now, I suck at picking out jewelry. I'm the type of guy that doesn't see a problem with heart-shaped jewelry. Seriously, why is it considered so ugly? So every time I want to buy something for my girl, I usually consult one of our mutual friends. My girl's best friends are all friends with me as well and we all get along well, so asking them for help picking out jewelry is something I'm used to. When it came time to pick out a ring, I consulted my girlfriend's best friend Justine, fake name. Justine and I are quite close and she knows my girlfriend better than anyone, including me. So when my girlfriend went out to visit her sister and baby nephew, I invited Justine over to the house to help pick out a ring. Justine and I looked through a few catalogs, but decided it was a dead end and it would be better to go to professionals at a jewelry store. However, I didn't know when my girlfriend would be coming home, so Justine and I thought of a clever text to gauge how much time we had. I asked her when she'd be coming home, as I was ordering takeout and wanted to know when to tell them to have the food ready by. She responded by saying it would be a few hours. She met up with Justine to go shopping. Now, obviously this took me by surprise since Justine was standing inside my house. I showed Justine the text and she looked as confused as I was. It isn't out of the ordinary for my girlfriend to meet up with people out of the blue like that for shopping, lunch, etc. She's a very spontaneous person and loves making plans on the fly. So ordinarily, I would have believed this text in a heartbeat. However, obviously this had to be a lie. When she came home she acted completely normal, and I played along, but it's been really hard to act like everything's fine. We got takeout, ate together and cuddled on the couch after. So far she's caught on a little something that is upsetting me, but I just can't tell her what. Looking at her kills me. I don't know what to do. My girlfriend and I have zero trust issues and we tell each other everything, so this lie is killing me. I want to ask her about it so badly, but if I tell her I knew she was lying, I'd have to explain why, and I really don't want to do that. What should I do? I know she lied to me, but I don't know how to confront her about it. Should I just forget it? This won't stop gnawing at me. Please help. Edit. I'm sorry for the lack of responses, it's been a hectic day and there's a lot of comments. Thank you to everyone who has commented so far, I appreciate them all. Edit 2, sorry again for the lack of responses guys, it's really been a crazy day. My parents are moving and I've been helping them. Also, I've never experienced this many comments on a post in my life. I'm going to talk to her tonight once we're both finally settled in after such a busy day, and I will update tomorrow. Update. Hey guys. Oh my god, where to begin? My last post got way more attention than I could have ever imagined. Suffice to say, it was a tad bit overwhelming. Seriously, the amount of people begging for an update was a bit dehumanizing in a way. Like I wasn't a person going through something, but more so a story. But I understand, haha. I just want to say thank you so much for all of the support and wonderful comments. I got a lot of great advice that helped me tackle the issue head on. I also got a lot of really kind comments and messages. It was awesome. I also got a lot of comments that made me realize how toxic this sub can be. There were many comments that just said things like, she's cheating, it's over, and don't even confront her, just leave. It's advice like that that can ruin relationships that just need a little work. And thank you to the people that told me to hit my girlfriend, told me I was an embarrassment to my gender, and best of all, told me I should encourage an affair because it would lead to great experiences for me later in life. You gave me a good chuckle. On to the update. I decided to confront my girlfriend. I thought about using some of the lies people suggested, but they just wouldn't make sense. To say I ran into Justine somewhere. Well, I told my girl I had to stay home and do stuff around the house, and that's why I couldn't go with her to see my style. To say Justine was helping me pick out jewelry. It doesn't make sense for her to come all the way to our house to help me pick out a piece of jewelry unless it was a serious piece of jewelry. Like an engagement ring. If I just wanted to get her a piece of jewelry as a gift, I'd ask her friends for suggestions or ask them to send me pictures of jewelry she might like. It all happens over text. None of the excuses made sense. So I decided to be honest. I basically just said that I knew we'd been thinking about marriage and she probably knew a proposal was coming soon, so I invited Justine over to help me find her the perfect ring, and that so happened to be the day that she said she was going to see her. So, what's the deal? She immediately started grinning like an idiot and prodding me about proposing and the ring, but then we got back onto the topic of where she was and she confessed what she was really doing. No, she wasn't cheating, and no, she wasn't picking out a ring for me. The amount of times that was commented was crazy. So some people are dog people and some people are cat people. Well, me, I'm a snake person. I grew up with snakes my whole life, but I never felt I was able to get one because my girlfriend has always been uneasy about living with a snake, which I completely respected. Also, the process of buying and raising a snake is very different from that of buying and raising a dog or cat. It's quite complicated. So you could imagine my surprise when my girlfriend showed me a picture of her holding the cutest Kenyan sand boa I have ever seen. Needless to say, my girlfriend was going to surprise me with a snake. We're picking her up next week. Let me know if you want a pet tax, she's so cute. I definitely did not expect this and I feel bad for ruining the surprise, but oh well. Life is good. Sorry if this isn't the ending you guys wanted or expected, just a snake. Am I the asshole for not allowing my daughter to visit my cousin's house because of her autistic son's behavior? My cousin and I both have 2 children who are the same age. We have 12-year-old boys and 11-year-old girls. Her 12-year-old son, Damien, is autistic and has a lot of issues that we believe are unrelated to autism, but we are no experts on the subject. My 12-year-old son, Christopher, loves hanging out with Damien because he enjoys knowing that he brings some sort of joy to Damien's otherwise rough life. Damien has been kicked out of every school he has attended, so he has no friends. Our daughters are the best of friends as well. They are basically inseparable. Well, about 2 weeks ago my cousin asked if she could take my kids for the week. COVID outbreak at school, so school was called off anyways. I said that was fine after asking the kids if they wanted to go. Everything was perfectly fine for the entire week, I thought. I checked on the kids often. They seemed happy and to be having fun. However, that all changed when I picked my kids up. That's when they told me all the weird shit Damien was doing. Such as my daughter would wake up to Damien stroking her hair or arms while she slept, and when she caught him, he pretended to be asleep. He went into his sister's room at some point during the night against his parents' rules. I guess he also told my daughter several times that he likes her, and when my daughter told my cousin about it, she basically said it's okay to have crushes, but where you're related, you simply can't act on it. I guess he also kept trying to take pictures of her. I'm unsure whether or not she corrected her son's behavior by touching my daughter in her sleep. However, I do know that not once did she tell me anything that happened. My kids did, while she kept it hush-hush. After finding all of this out, I called my cousin and said that my kids would no longer be allowed there because my daughter now felt uncomfortable around Damien. She is pissed because he doesn't mean it. It's not like he went out of his way to be weird, he doesn't understand. It's his autism, but says she ultimately understands. However, she's still making me feel bad about it because her kid has autism and doesn't know why he isn't allowed to see my kids anymore, and I guess he has been having a lot of outbursts since that point. One of them resulting in her needing to call the police because he became violent and started throwing chairs.
Would either the A for telling my boyfriend his support for Trump, a racist and homophobic convicted felon, gives me the ick and makes me question us? Original post July 24, 2024. Hello everyone, I am using a new account because I prefer to keep this anonymous. I am 20 years old and started dating my boyfriend, who is 21 years old, about 2 months ago. We have known each other for approximately 3 years. Initially we were not interested in dating, but it happened naturally, and everything has been going well except for one issue. I recently discovered that he is a Trump supporter. Before anyone lectures me about not letting politics affect my relationship, please hear me out. There have been a few things about his political views that have really bothered me. For context, I am a Hispanic female immigrant who fled from a country that went through severe turmoil. I have had nothing but negative experiences with Trump supporters. Almost every time, without fail, they have said or done something extremely demeaning to me or my family, such as talking about deporting people like us, calling us a threat to the country, slut-shaming and other derogatory comments. I am the kind of person who judges others based on their beliefs, and I have learned that people with these views are not the type of individuals I want to be around. When Trump was convicted, my boyfriend and I discussed politics. He argued that Trump was not really a felon, claiming the courts were unfair, biased, and that Trump did not receive a fair trial. Although this is not his exact wording, it captures the essence of his argument when I told him that Trump was now a felon. When we were watching The Boys, Season 4, there was a scene where an old man explained to Newman that women can reject pregnancies. My boyfriend agreed with that old man. When I explained to him that this is not how women's bodies work, he apologized to me. However, I was still absolutely shocked that he did not understand such a basic thing about women, especially since he has a sister, so it's not like he grew up without women in his life. We also had a conversation about immigration, and he stated that all immigrants should be immediately deported. I told him that my family and I are immigrants and asked if he meant us as well. He responded, "But you guys are legal, I'm talking about the illegal ones." I explained that this type of rhetoric makes me feel unsafe, and the conversation ended there. During another discussion about the Trump-Epstein relationship, he claimed it was all a conspiracy, and that Trump is not the type of person to be involved in such things. I brought up multiple examples of Trump's predatory behavior, such as the pussy grabber incident, his heckling of a 10-year-old, his creepy comments about his daughter, and the flight logs. I argued that, while guilt by association is not a valid judgment, Trump's history of predatory actions makes the allegations seem more plausible. He insisted that Trump never did any of that. This conversation was particularly distressing for me because I am a victim of sexual assault. The troubling thought crossed my mind that, if I were ever assaulted again, my boyfriend might not even believe me. His support for someone I consider a rapist implies that he condones Trump's actions and, by extension, the actions of the man who assaulted me. I struggle to understand how someone who grew up with women, has a girlfriend who is Hispanic and an immigrant, and has LGBTQ plus friends can stand by such views. It makes me wonder if there is a side of him that he has not revealed to me yet, which makes me extremely uncomfortable given that this is a new relationship. I am asking if I would be the A for telling him that his views give me the ick, because my own family advises against letting politics interfere with my relationship. They say, Trump wants people to fight each other, and I shouldn't let Trump win. But I really don't know. Can I get some advice? Relevant comments. Comment. Not the A. He may be speaking out of brainwashed ignorance, but even after offering your perspective, he tells you that you're wrong. If you stay with him, you will never stop having to educate this guy, and he doesn't really want to be educated. OP. Yeah, I can agree with that. Every time I invite him to do his own research, he'll always pull up a pro-Trump article and use it as evidence that I'm wrong, or ask me multiple times where I'm getting my resources until I doubt myself. He's been asking me to promise that we wouldn't let our differences in beliefs cause problems in our relationship. And I feel like I'm being babied a bit. It's been really stressing me out. Because aside from that, he's really nice to me, and a lot of my family is excited about meeting him. And his family. Breaking up with him after I just announced I was dating him would cause even more problems for me. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that it will probably be for the better. I think I'm okay with carrying through with it. I'll talk to him when I see him later. I'm not really excited about it because we go to the same school. Update July 29, 2024. Hello everyone. Here is an update. I did not expect my last post to get so much attention, or for people to tell me that this is a justifiable reason for ending a relationship. So thank you for not being judgmental. Many people were asking about the country my family came from. So I will share it since I do not think it is identifiable information. It is Venezuela. If you are not aware of what is happening there, then I envy you. Also, a shout out to those people who thought this was AI generated. I find it kind of sad that this has become the state of Reddit now. If you think something is AI, just do not engage with it. That is what people who post AI content want from you. Do not let them win. Now, on to the update. I spent the last couple of days with my dad, who was visiting me, and deleting social media and muting a bunch of politics-related stuff because I've come to realize that regularly listening to people talk about how people like me ruin the country and how we don't belong here isn't really good for my mental health. And neither is dating someone who openly admits to supporting that group. I spoke with my now ex-boyfriend. I went to his room instead of inviting him to mine because I knew that if I let him in my room, he would refuse to leave until he convinced me to stay. I wanted to have the option to remove myself from the situation at any time, as we live in a college dorm. Firstly, I should mention that on the day I made my first post, I told him that his support for a known rapist was hurtful to me. I explained that tolerating such behavior makes me question if he is also tolerant of the person who assaulted me, which makes me see him differently. He responded with a lengthy text message, expressing that my words hurt his feelings and that he does care about my experience with sexual assault. However, I found it hard to understand how he could say that while supporting someone who boasts about sexual assault. The essence of his message was, I feel terrible that you see me as the type of person who'd be okay with rape, because I'm not okay with it. I acknowledged that I might have been wrong to say that, so I began our conversation by apologizing to him. I then told him that I wanted to end our relationship and go back to being friends, although I did not really mean the friends part. It is unrealistic to maintain a friendship with someone who affiliates with a group that regularly disrespects me. He tried to convince me to stay by saying that he really loved me and cared about me and respected my opinions. That we shouldn't let politics get in the way of our relationship. I responded that I can't change what he believes, and that I value a person's beliefs and the group of people they associate with as a method of how I judge their character. I've already judged him. I don't like what I see, and therefore, I've lost my feelings for him. He told me I was making a generalization. I told him that while it is true that I might be making a generalization, we can't change the fact that in this landscape of politics, many of my rights are in the chopping block, and that I am already starting to resent him for not really feeling listened to when I try to talk about how anxious it's making me. He told me that none of that stuff is going to happen, and that our different opinions shouldn't get in the way of our relationship. That he's voting for Trump because he thinks he can fight inflation and cares about military members. I told him that while I can lost a million reasons why that isn't true, that isn't relevant to the conversation. He then said that all his other relationships never consisted of talk about politics and that this was ridiculous. I pretty much told him that he can't have his cake and eat it. I can't date someone who associates with people who give me trouble, and that this won't be sustainable. Ending is better for the both of us. I realized that this conversation was going nowhere and decided to just leave. I told him to just give up on it already before leaving. He kept asking me to stay while he thought about what to say, but I didn't. I'm just done. I don't really feel sad. I feel so relieved. I'm going to leave social media for a while and just focus on myself for a while. I'm going to therapy too. I'll stick around to read your comments. IDK how much longer I'll be able to respond though. If I go radio silent, then just take that as a sign that I am no longer on this app. Have a nice day. Relevant comments. Commenter. You are not the A. You are not breaking up with him because he gives you the ick. His support of a racist and homophobic convicted felon does not align with your values. This is not a quirky little disagreement, like differing on a choice of music or which team to root for in a game. By the way, he may claim to have all these diverse friends, but I can assure you that they do not consider him their friend with views like this. Anyone in your family's opinion about your relationship does not matter here. They are not the ones dating him. You are. The fact that you pointed out to him how you are an immigrant too, and that does not seem to register with him at all, is telling. Honey. He is in a cult. There is no saving him. Original poster. You pretty much summed up my exact thoughts on why his gay friend does not want to hang out with him anymore. I recently found out that there is a bit of a rift in their relationship, and I did not even start thinking about why until I learned more about him. Gosh, everyone is burning bridges. Here's the thing. It is not about politics. It is about values. Although I dislike the term values, because religious people often use it to justify many negative things, it really does come down to what you value. Do you value kindness, respect, empathy, caring and thoughtfulness, or is your idea of values just rules to hate, be disrespectful, be judgmental, fulfill your ego, and feel self-righteous? We are all aware that the Republicans intentionally positioned themselves as the religious party in the 1980s to garner votes. Since then, some people cannot differentiate between politics, religion, and personal values. Your boyfriend may not be religious, but he is clearly influenced by whatever ideology he is drawn into. As a human being, you have